Vediamo. Ofric.
Hey,
Due
it's the
gemelli.
envoy.
Envoy, hey!
I swear, I owe you the world.
I own the world. He saved my life, remember?
Yeah, you only told me about 100 times.
Hey, where's Yeda? Is everyone else on their way?
Temo di no.
No. Oh, gods. Does he mean...
They didn't make it, Offric. I'm sorry.
But you saved Cadman. You couldn't save them? Or you didn't try?
What happened?
L'oraco ha sappato le loro anime dai corpi e le ha inserite in una
What?
statua.
They probably went quickly. If that helps.
I can't understand this.
Hey, Offric, hey, listen. We always knew that was a risk, right? And we told ourselves.
Better to go out at the bottom of the world or the top. And dying in bed like Granda, asking what if.
Did you avenge them? Is the Oracle dead?
L'ho lasciato vivere, ha molte colpe da espiare.
But
More senseless killing won't bring them back. They didn't get justice, but at least I got my brother back.
Don't be a baby. You would have been fine without me.
What I mean to say is, we're grateful, Envoy.
Cosa farete
Ambassador
ora?
Heelguard has written to Expedition Command back in High Crown to see if they'll let us come home.
While we wait for their reply, I thought...
Wait. Let me guess. Mermaid's Den.
You told him?
It was a moment of weakness. I thought I was dead. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to give you this. It belonged to our grandfather. He'd always wanted to join the corps, but life got in the way.
Tela del
When we were
Dello.
recruiting, he gave it to us to remind us to live well.
La custodirò con
Well.
cura.
I'm sure you've got big Envoy things to do.
I don't know if you heard, but there's a plague on and everything.
If you're ever in High Crown, look us up.
Yeah, we can drink to the corps together.
Mamma mia. Lo farò, abbiate cura di voi.
I wish things had turned out better for the rest of their crew, but I'm glad they made it. One of them may even get a happy ending.
Allora. Inventario. E che cazzo mi ha dato, scusa? Ah, questo. Destrezza più velocità, acrobazia. No, lasciamolo così. Depositiamo.
You died, but you're here. Gods, am I glad to see you.
La Gilda del Cartolo, volume 1. L'animata Gilda del Cartolo è servita a lungo imperatori e regine di Edir. Siamo noi responsabili della creazione e distribuzione di numerose mappe in tutto l'impero, che si tratti di guidare i viaggiatori nell'immenso territorio di Edir, di aiutare i capitani delle navi nei loro viaggi attraverso oro, o semplicemente di adornare le pareti della casa di un aristocratico. Una cosa è certa: Gilda del Cartografo ha creato quelle opere d'arte. Per oltre 2 secoli, da quando i nobili corpi spedizione hanno scoperto le distese orientali, abbiamo lavorato e faticato per rifornire tutto l'impero e le sue colonie di mappe accurate di alta qualità. Se le vorranno, continueremo a farlo per i secoli a venire. Usanze Edir. Edir è una nazione dalle molteplici usanze, tutte rigidamente rispettate, variano dai festeggiamenti più grandiosi come il banchetto dei banchetti alle più semplici superstizioni come i modi per scansare la dipendenza da Sbef. Questo volume sarà incentrato prevalentemente sui principali festeggiamenti, dato che nessuno sa organizzare una festa con tutti i crismi quanto un Edir. Banchetto dei banchetti. La più grande e importante delle usanze Edir è il banchetto dei banchetti. Questa festività, di un'intera settimana, cade nella prima settimana di Fonest, piena estate, e celebra la vita del primo Fairconing. Ogni giorno della settimana è dedicata a determinati aspetti della vita del Fairconing. E a ciascun pasto vengono servite specifiche pietanze. Il banchetto dei banchetti venne indetto originariamente per festeggiare la nascita del primogenito del Fairconing, e ben presto divenne una ricorrenza annuale nella settimana del suo compleanno. Oggi gli Edir la usano semplicemente come scusa per far festa e abbandonare ogni ritegno nel tentativo di superare l'impresa dell'anno precedente. E nel caso vi chiedeste, come me lo sono chiesto io, quale Fairconing viene onorato nel banchetto dei banchetti, è sempre il Fairconing in carica, perché ciascun Fairconing è il primo e solo Fairconing. Bel dolcetto. Bel dolcetto è un'usanza particolarmente affermatasi a un certo punto del contesto del banchetto dei banchetti. Ebbe origine come modo per tenere occupati i bambini affinché i genitori potessero mangiare in santa pace, viene tuttora impiegato a questo scopo, ma ha acquisito anche altri significati. Ogni dolcetto viene messo in un contenitore, scatoline di metallo solitamente nascoste in qualche luogo della casa. Una volta nascosto tutto, i bambini vengono mandati a trovare i tesori. La versione odierna è che i dolcetti nascosti rappresentino gli artefatti Glanfadan e che i bambini siano gli esploratori che riportano ricchezze ai nuovi legittimi proprietari. Carnevale della maschera. Quando i primi coloni Edir giunsero il nuovo mondo per fondare la foresta di Dir, in nome del fecondo re Edir incoronarono i Glanfadan, incontrarono i Glanfadar. Il Carnevale della maschera rappresenta questo primo incontro, in origine solamente una rievocazione formale, una forma di dramma teatrale delle tensioni tra Glanfadan e coloni Edir, ma da allora è divenuto molto di più. I partecipanti scelgono una fazione e si presentano agghindati in complessi costumi che raffigurano il gruppo con cui hanno deciso di schierarsi, Edir o Glanfadan. Tutti partecipano a un ballo mascherato e questa festa sostituisce ogni traccia e rappresentazione di un tempo. In inverno. In inverno non è mai stato altro che una scusa per far festa. E le cose non sono cambiate in tutti gli anni in cui si è festeggiato in Edir. Si festeggia durante l'aurora invernale e dura per tutti i 3 giorni. È un'occasione per riflettere sull'anno passato, festeggiare la propria esistenza e ricordare i defunti, specie quelli passati a miglior vita nel corso dell'anno. Ok. L'impero Edir parte prima alle origini. All'incirca nel 2200 alcune tribù chiamate il popolo del cervo si unirono e formarono una civiltà, il regno Edir. Le tribù piccole e disperse sul territorio sapevano che unirsi era la scelta migliore per sopravvivere. I capi di ciascuna tribù divennero i consiglieri del re, cioè scelto dal gruppo. Ciascun consigliere sarebbe comunque stato il signore e la sua gente, ma ciascuno di essi sarebbe stato sottomesso al Fairconing, primo re. La decisione si rivelò una scelta eccellente. Il regno Edir prosperò, espandendosi in nuovi territori, formando solide rotte commerciali, divenne noto come patria di uomini in affari equanimi quanto a studi. Anche se il regno prosperava e i dissidi interni erano pochi, c'erano comunque occasionali schermaglie con il vicino regno elfico di Kulklin. Poco dopo la formazione del regno, gli Edir iniziarono a studiare l'animanzia. Una disciplina ancora ben poco nota all'epoca, era un nuovo potere esaltante ma spaventoso. Gli studiosi Edir ritenevano che avesse un grande potenziale da esplorare. Questo potenziale si realizzò nel 2260, quando un gruppo di animanti, operando di concerto, trasferì l'anima di un uomo da poco defunto in un altro corpo, creando il primo di quelli che in seguito sarebbero stati conosciuti come non morti. La reazione a questa scoperta fu rapida e decisa, tanto il re di Edir quanto la chiesa di condannarono l'evento. Questa l'avevo già letta. Nonostante avrebbero praticato, ok. I conflitti con Kulklin continuarono fino a degenerare una piccola guerra nel 2398. In seguito venne firmato un trattato in base al quale il regno di Edir e Kulklin si sarebbero uniti per formare l'impero Edir. Risolti i conflitti politici e militari, quest'ultimo divenne una forza economica inarrestabile. Le sue rotte commerciali capaci di generare e procurare risorse difficili da reperire altrove divennero le più redditizie al mondo. Lettera contraria ad Ambasciatore Ilgard. Mantenuto l'ordine a Paradis per anni. Conosco questa città. Quando c'è un buon leader e un governatore giusto c'è pace. Tu invece hai permesso alla carota d'acciaio di terrorizzare il mio popolo, di seminare sfiducia e paura. Dovresti stringere il guinzaglio della tua inquisitrice o l'ambasciata non esporrà i tuoi stendardi per molto tempo. Clavigero Evon. Rapporto della carota d'acciaio. Abbiamo trovato questo libro su una panchina pubblica. Dopo un'attenta analisi, il nostro scriba ha confermato che la caligrafia corrisponde alla firma trovata sulle pergamene della sfera gotica di Tain. Tain si trova nelle terre viventi. Come membro del circo degli arcimaghi, ha l'autorizzazione per recarsi ovunque gli voglia. Lo osserveremo da lontano, ma nessuno lo affronterà. Tain potrebbe essere la persona più innocua o la persona più pericolosa al mondo. Non possiamo permetterci di correre rischi. Diario di Tain. Caro diario, eccomi qui nelle terre viventi. Quest'isola non sarà il luogo di vacanza più sicuro, ma è certamente il più colorato. E anche il più saporito secondo questi funghi. I funghi raramente mentono. Prima che mi dimentichi, ho promesso a Becarna di portare un souvenir. Si dice che ci sia una stella caduta a scala smeraldo. Potrebbe essere una bella aggiunta alla sua collezione. Sulla copertina interna c'è scritto: chiunque trovi questo diario è pregato di restituirlo a Tain l'Arcimago, l'autore della sfera caotica di Tain. L'impero Edir parte 2, l'espansione. Nel 2602 gli esploratori Edir tornarono dall'altra sponda dell'oceano, raccontando di rovine e tesori che si trovavano in quelle terre e di grandi campi perfetti per coltivare il Vorlas. Gli esploratori avvertirono il Ferkoning che la gente del luogo non era amichevole con i forestieri, ma il Ferkoning, vista l'occasione di espandere il proprio impero e stabilire commerci su un altro continente, mandò altre spedizioni di esplorazione. Nei 20 anni successivi le terre che sarebbero divenute la foresta di Dir vennero perlustrate, registrate sulle mappe e colonizzate. Nel 2623 vennero fondati i primi insediamenti coloniali Edir permanenti. Vennero seminati i campi di Vorlas a nord dei boschi della foresta di Dir, ma tra i conflitti con i Glanfadan e la guerra della pietra infrante la difficoltà si moltiplicarono. L'occasione si ripresentò soltanto nel 2643. Alcuni pellegrini del culto di Eutas, per sfuggire alla persecuzione, fondarono colonie e coltivazioni di Vorlas nel territorio di Red Ceras. Con il grande impero di Vailia, di Vailia sull'orlo del crollo, il Ferkoning voleva accertarsi di prendere il controllo del commercio della tintura viola, coraggiò la colonizzazione e pagò persino i pellegrini perché si insediassero nel nuovo mondo. Poiché il Ferkoning stava ancora cercando di affermarsi sul mercato della tintura viola, non riuscì a reagire adeguatamente all'ultimatum presentatogli da Admet Adret. Per evitare una ribellione e avere il tempo di supervisionare le coltivazioni di Vorlas a Red Terrace, il Ferkoning cedette e fece di Admet un gref palatino. In cambio di questa concessione, Admet spese tempo e risorse nelle vie commerciali di trasporto della foresta di Dir, portando nuovi introiti nelle casse di Ferkoning. Per 7 anni la foresta di Dir procurò ad Edir ricavi costanti, lasciando al Ferkoning il tempo di stabilire un solido commercio a Red Seras. Con l'attenzione del Ferkoning rivolta altrove, Admet istituì il Trattato dei 10 anni, che poneva fine alla schiavitù della foresta di Dir e bloccava in modo permanente una delle fonti di reddito degli esploratori diriani, il traffico di manufatti delle rovine che costellavano la foresta. A questo punto la parola del Ferkoning non aveva praticamente alcun peso per i diriani. Admet Adret l'aveva rimpiazzato con vera autorità. Per scalzare Admet e la sua posizione, il Ferkoning trovò alleati disposti a esplorare le rovine, contro le condizioni del trattato, e saccheggiarle. Ben presto Edir ebbe di nuovo una fonte di manufatti da vendere. Quando i suoi agenti furono infine catturati, il Ferkoning prese le distanze. Certo che non vi fosse alcun modo di collegarla a quegli atti, ma il Gref, con i mezzi forniti dagli alleati Glanfadan, rinvenne le prove necessarie a dimostrare che il Ferkoning era il mandante dei saccheggi. Il conflitto che scaturì da questa rivelazione portò Admet a dichiarare l'indipendenza della foresta di Dir nel 2668. Dopo 4 sanguinosi anni di guerra che portarono alla morte di Admet, il Ferkoning si arrese. Cercare di mantenere il controllo della foresta di Dir iniziava a costargli troppo. Firmò trattati con il nuovo duca della foresta di Dir e tornò a volgere l'attenzione a Red Seras, raddoppiando gli sforzi di commercio del Vorlas, che continua ancora oggi. Ok.
Envoy, hello. I'm glad to see you on your feet. Kai.
Tycg.
I'm surprised they let you in here.
I'm surprised you're still gainfully employed.
È accaduto qualcosa tra voi due?
It's nothing like that. You run into all sorts of characters around here, is all. Some more polite than others. I didn't mean anything by it, Envoy. He's just curious company for you to keep.
Hey, somebody has to have the envoys back, because you all sure did it.
No one expected the Envoy to get assassinated.
Exactly. Amateurs.
Credo che ci sia dell'altro in questa storia.
Well,
Kai?
come on, it's funny. Tycg caused a ruckus last time he was slumming it at the Ballarok.
Ballarok. Il Ballarok sono enormi creature native delle terre viventi. Spesso in letargo e raramente visibile allo stato selvatico. Le leggende narrano che l'aspetto di un Balrog cambia in base alla stagione e l'ecosistema che prediligono, dove agiscono cacciatori di guardiani.
You were trying to kill a man, if I remember right. I had to put you outside.
You threw me into the canal.
You lived.
That water's filthy. I had the runs for 3 days.
Gods, Tycg. The envoy doesn't need to know that.
Hai davvero cercato di uccidere qualcuno?
The fellow cheated me. I couldn't let that slide. Or he'd think we were all marks.
It was over a dice game, right? Tycg here has a gambling problem.
Great. Let's air all my troubles. Is there anything else?
The bartender's sleeping with your girlfriend.
You're lying.
You sure about that?
We'll talk about this later.
I'm not breaking up with her for you. Just so we're clear.
That's more than enough. Thank you. Was there anything I could help you with, envoy?
Andiamo Tycg. Cacchio si dice. Non hai intenzione di opporti a Cain?
The 7-foot-tall Almawa with biceps the size of my head? No, I am not.
Flatterer. You know I'm barely over 6.5.
Quindi ci rispondo a qualche domanda.
Naturally, sir. How can I help you?
Desidero conoscere più a fondo Paradis.
What would you like to know?
Quando è stata fondata questa città? Chi vive qui?
If you're looking for a particular year, the first thing you should know about Paradis is that this isn't the kind of place where the locals keep records. And though it might be considered a distant backwater by the rest of the world, this city is the height of civilization by the standards of the living lands. As for who calls this place home, I suspect you could find a criminal, confidence man, or prophet from every civilization in the world here.
Hey, come on. You're gonna give the envoy the wrong idea. We've got draft dodgers, courtesans, and revolutionaries, too. You know, all the fun people.
In any event, as far as I can tell, Paradis has been this way since its inception. Thus the eclectic display of architectural styles. If nothing else, this city is a reflection of the countless people who have passed through it on their way to the interior.
Quali sono le intenzioni di Edir e Paradis?
Depends on who you ask. Ambassador Heelgard will tell you that our remit here is to establish a secure and orderly environment from which to engage in trade. Inquisitor Liudwin will tell you we're here to break the frontier.
So, which is it?
Why not both?
Percezione 4 terzi. Non mi è giunta alcuna notizia sulla piaga dei sogni.
That's where you come in. Whether you find your desires aligning with the ambassadors or the inquisitors, neither can succeed until the dream scourge is ended. We are only beginning to see its effects here in Dawnshore, but the closer to the center of the island you go, the worse it gets. That bear you and the ambassador encountered in the Strangle Route isn't even the worst of it. And the tide of this soul plague is rising higher every day.
Cosa pensa di noi la gente di Paradis?
For all that I complain about this backwater, there are good people here. Same as anywhere else. People who want to be able to walk to the market in the morning for their bread and eggs and know they won't be mugged. People who like it when the mail comes on time, and their skates are made from real copper, and their neighborhood peeping Tom ends up in the stocks. Those people, good and honest people, who pay their debts and honor their contracts and remember to thank the gods, they like us a lot.
Parlami della gente che ha cercato di
The
uccidermi.
resistance, as such, are largely a group of misfits and criminals intent on undermining the rule of law. They take out loans with small Aderan banking houses and do not pay them, then assault the bankers who attempt to collect. They agree to contracts with families in Adir seeking homes, and when their ships arrive, promptly abandon them. When we levy a small tax to fund the repair of city roads, they set our counting house on fire. And when our fishermen return to port, they board their ships and sink them.
That's certainly one way to characterize them. It's not exactly wrong, but it's not exactly right either.
For decades, people like them ruled this city through fear. We imposed order, and now they oppose us. You, unfortunately, were caught in the crossfire.
Vorrei chiederti
Of
qualcos'altro. L'imperatore ha avuto tempo di fornirmi informazioni sui televidenti. Cosa dovrei sapere?
There's a lot of ground to cover. Could you be more specific?
In che modo le terre viventi e gli Edi si rapportano con una mappa?
Ah, the age-old question. Who's bigger? Adir is, naturally, by a wide margin. And were we at the Cartographers Guild in High Crown, I could show you on one of their globes. As it is, we must make do in the theater of our minds.
Dove si trovano le terre viventi rispetto a
The
Edir?
Living Lands are located in the far north of Aora. Adir is southwest of the Living Lands, situated along the equator.
E che mi dici del clima? Devo sapere a cosa sto andando
The
incontro.
Living Lands are more arid than Adir, and the island is more prone to storms. But its many deep valleys protect the various townships from the worst of the weather. Topographically speaking, the Living Lands are a place of extremes. Deep inland, mountains rise high enough to rival those of the White March, blanketed year-round in snow. While east of the volcano of Mount Forja is an acid sea that sinks far below the level of the
Vulcano
ocean.
Forge. Monte Forge, un vulcano attivo nella regione del Corno di Galawain, nelle terre viventi.
The lands between them are riven with deep clefts in the earth and isolated by wastelands of sun-baked sand dunes.
Avrei altre domande.
I'll share what I can.
Chi ha il potere
There
qui?
is no singular authority in the Living Lands.
Not yet, anyway.
I shudder to think what the Living Lands would look like under your rule.
Well, to start, there'd be a lot more brothels.
Charming. Power is invested in the leaders of the various townships scattered across the island. The largest are Fjord, Thirdborn, and Solace. None of which, I will note, are as safe and orderly as Paradise.
Cosa dovrei sapere su
Fjord
Fiora?
Messeverno is located in a valley known locally as the Emerald Stair, named for the terraced rice paddies that cover its hillsides. It is our closest neighbor. The city, if you can call it that, was founded 50 years ago by animancers from the Valian Republics. Apparently, the laws governing animancy weren't lenient enough in the Republics. So the city's founders came to the Living Lands, where they could practice their discipline more freely. Currently, Fjord is governed by a man named Ignacy Vidaro. Rather inept to hear the ambassador talk about him. Fjord's farmers supply most of the grain and vegetables we eat here in Paradise. Or it did. Their shipments have been infrequent lately. Something about a blight in the fields. In any event, I believe that covers Fjord.
Bene. Non so molte repubbliche vailiane.
The Valian Republics are a collection of city-states in the Eastern Reach, southeast of our former colony, the Deerwood. The republics began life as colonies of the Grand Empire of Valia, hence the name. But as Grand Valia's economy collapsed, well, the colony saw an opportunity to escape the influence of the Empire of Origin, and they seceded, much as the Deerwood did from Adir. Now a mature confederation in their own right, the republics have recently indulged their own expansionist ambitions in the Deadfire Archipelago. Through their merchants in the Valian Trading Company, the republics will sell you anything you could ever wish to buy.
Up to and including people.
We should count ourselves lucky to have had no interest in the Living Lands. In a struggle between our Emperor and the Republic's great dukes, well, I doubt we would come out on top. But if anyone asks, I was not the one who told you that.
Qual è la storia di Terza?
Everything you need to know about Thirdborn is in its name. It was founded by the Thirdborn children of Rawatai, Navy dropouts, smugglers, and hands for hire. Almawa and Orland, mostly.
Home, sweet home.
You're free to go back any time you like.
I like my current circumstances just fine, thanks.
They are a people, in short, who couldn't cut it in the civilized world and had to make room on the margins. Unfortunately, they are currently besieged by the Dream Scourge.
Piaga dei soldi.
We have sent some troops to lend what help we can, and the mayor, Temerity, was appropriately grateful, but I don't know how long they'll hold out.
Non mi spiacerebbe sapere saperne di più su Rawatai.
Rawatai is one of the old empires, every bit as storied as Grand Valia or our native Adir. If Adir is to the southwest of the Living Lands, Rawatai is to the southeast. And unlike our home, that small continent is racked by terrible storms. This is due, or rather, was due, to the island's proximity to Andra's mortar, the unending super hurricane that once hid the ancient city of Akaizo.
Mortaio. Mortaio di Ondra. Era un'enorme porzione d'oceano dell'arcipelago di Mortafiamma che persegue è stato colpito da terribili tempeste. Le tempeste si placarono nel 2828, aprendo la strada all'esplorazione di antichi misteri e nuove frontiere ora mai raggiunte prima.
Rawatai is largely peopled by Aumaua, descended from those who fled the Deadfire Archipelago centuries ago, when Andra pulled the moon, Ioni Brather, into the sea. They are an aggressive, militant culture, and personally, I find their obsession with gunpowder rather quaint. They are also our chief rivals on the world stage.
Una piccola luna che si scontrò con Aora migliaia di anni fa. I miti narrano che fu la dea Ondra a trascinare la luna in un suo abbraccio marino. Ancora oggi è possibile imbattersi in frammenti di ogni Bratar, disseminati per tutte oro.
I don't think they see it that way.
No?
Well, as far as Navy brass is concerned, Adir doesn't really rate.
Now you're just making things up.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we don't think about you at all.
Cosa puoi dirmi di conforto?
Solace is, what is there to say, really?
Yeah, they tend to have that effect on people.
The trouble is, I don't know much about Solace. Nobody does. They are an isolationist community of Pagrunan dwarves who live in the forbidding ways of Galawain's tusks. They don't let outsiders into their lands, and they don't let their people out of them.
Some folks get out from time to time, but they can't ever go back. And the ones who survive aren't eager to talk about their experiences.
People aside, the land itself is incredibly hostile. The island's volcano, Mount Forja, rests at the heart of the region, and it's recently become active. Half the land is lava rock, and the other half is, well, literally lava. I don't know why anyone lives there. I have to assume they're all insane.
You have no idea.
Potresti dirmi qualcosa sui nani Pargrum?
Naturally. The Pargrunan are a unique community of mountain dwarves originating in Old Valia. As a people, they've made their name as explorers, builders, miners. No doubt you've seen their ruins in your travels, here, back home in Adir, and all across the world. They maintain a rich tradition of oral storytelling, chanted magics, and ritual carving, which they take great pains to record and transmit across their various communities. Even the most physically isolated Pagrun is not alone. Somewhere, one of their people is thinking of them and planning an expedition. Abidan must cherish them.
You sound like you admire them.
I suppose I do.
Vorrei chiederti
By all
qualcos'altro. Ho sentito parlare molto di questa inquisitrice Lodwin. Chi sarebbe?
Consider yourself lucky. Inquisitor Ludwin is the commander of the Steel Garrote in Paradise. Were you to ask her, she'd say she keeps the peace. But she doesn't keep it so much as prosecute it. As ruthlessly as the ambassador will let her. She's also a veteran of the Steel Garrote's campaign in the Deadfire, where she died.
She's a Death Guard. Well, that explains a lot.
I don't know what happened to her there, but I suppose Wodica wasn't done with her yet.
I guardi della morte sono individui dotati di grande forza e volontà che si rifiutano di morire, si aggrappano alla vita mantenendo un profondo legame con una qualche crociata personale risolta, spesso relativa alla loro fede. Rare e terrificanti, le guardie della morte sono tra le presenze malvagie più brutali e intransigenti di oro. Wow. Avevamo posto una guardia della morte a sorvegliare gli archivi di Braganil.
Cryptic Neil! I remember him fondly.
Percezione 4 terzi. Come fate a ricordarti di lui?
I took every upper-level course the university offered on memory and recall to circumvent the Walian glamour on him. And even then, it only barely worked. I had to look at him out of the corner of my eye and half cross them while thinking of something dreadfully boring like, grimoire repair. On the upside, it's made me an exceptional clerk. But that's neither here nor there. We were discussing death guards.
D'accordo, parlami delle guardie della morte.
Death guards are surpassingly rare. Some of the secretaries who traveled with our dignitaries in the Deadfire spoke of one named Iser, a devotee of Berith, who guards the hanging sepulchres there. But I have heard of none others except those I've read about in the histories. They are people, most often paladins or priests, so devoted to a cause that they simply refuse to pass on to the wheel when they die. Their soul haunts their body. The passion required to sustain them devours their flesh, and they swiftly turn to bone. I've never read a history nor tale of a death guard that did not end with them going quite mad. When they lose their capacity to care for anything but their cause, they cannot love. And when they cannot love, they cannot be merciful. And so everything before them becomes only an obstacle.
Com'era l'Adwin prima di tramutarsi nella guardia della morte?
I only met her once. She was a mid-level member of the Steel Garrote then, chasing oathbreakers who'd fled Adiran law. She'd come back to the Imperial Archives to borrow a map to a place called Oathbinder's Sanctum. I remember she was furious because the map was quite poor. She worried about finding the place, about properly executing her duty to her god. She wanted, I think, to do a good job. So, while clearly she has changed, in some sense, I'd say she's much the same.
Interessante. Cosa sei della garrota?
Think upon your promises and die. That's the litany of the Steel Garrote, usually said right before they kill you. They're an order of paladins born and bred in Adir, though clearly they've found plenty of work beyond our borders. Their remit is simple but comprehensive. They punish all who break their oaths. In practice, that has historically meant contracts. One lord or merchant will hire the Steel Garrote to bring a duplicitous rival to justice.
Fun bunch. What are they doing in Paradise?
Since the events in the Deadfire, their operations have expanded. The Steel Garrote has always been associated with Wodica. Now, they are explicitly her order. And they go wherever Wodica's priests, or Wodica herself, believes there is a need for them to go. The Living Lands are a dangerous, lawless frontier in sore need of order. Thus, they are here. Or so the Steel Garrote say.
Vedi cadete della vendetta. L'Adwin ha scelto una divinità protettrice impegnativa.
Do you think so? I've always found her inflexibility comforting. Wodica's edicts are clear. If you obey her laws, pursue justice, punish the guilty, and give fealty to the Emperor, then you have pleased her, and I aim to please. But Wodica does not trust. She demands that you declare yourself for her again and again. Her every request is a test, and her every test is an opportunity to disappoint her. I appreciate a god who makes you work for their grace. I don't want anything given to me for free.
Vorrei chiederti qualcos'altro.
I'm an open book.
Ho incontrato un'osservatrice, è stata un'esperienza strana, vorrei saperne di più di loro, sul loro
I
conto.
hope it wasn't that charlatan in Hightown. She's an absolute menace. That the militia puts up with her is a testament to how unfit they are to run this city.
Ho incontrato anche quell'osservatrice, ma mi riferivo a Riunda, ad est di Riva dell'Alba.
Ah, Runid. A remarkable woman. She is the genuine article. A real watcher.
Andras Depths! Are you in love with her?
Kai!
Don't worry, Tycg. I won't tell your girlfriend. Your secret's safe with me.
You are a menace. Someone should lock you up.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Ugh. Anyway, Watchers are individuals capable of perceiving souls. The soul may be in a living body, or it may simply be lingering, waiting to pass into the in-between. In either case, interacting with a soul allows a Watcher to glimpse a person's past lives or their most deeply buried memories. Watchers are incredibly rare, and in Adir, highly controlled. Many people wish to know who they were in a previous life, and do not like what they learn.
Cosa succede agli osservatori di Adir?
The smart ones stay hidden. They do not announce their powers, perhaps not even to themselves. Even a careful Watcher risks inadvertently revealing themselves by knowing something they shouldn't know. Of the ones that are public, little is concretely known. But we hear things. They make good judges in Wodaka's courts, so long as they're controlled. The lords, it's rumored, buy and sell them to collect blackmail on their enemies. But I suspect many Watchers are imprisoned or executed, or simply kill themselves.
Gli osservatori sono
A
pericolosi.
Watcher doesn't need your cooperation or consent to read your soul. They could learn everything about you, terribly damaging things about your parentage, for example, or things you did in a past life, without you ever knowing. You see how this could threaten the established order, undermine our betters' right to rule.
Yeah, but that's just one side to it. Imagine how a Watcher feels, knowing what a threat they are to the status quo. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be keen on kings and emperors wanting me dead. Sounds like a lot of hassle.
Don't sell yourself short, Kai. I don't doubt you're an expert in people wanting you dead.
You're not wrong.
I rarely am, in any case. The Watcher is fundamentally a tragic figure. Of the few that survive our world, most are destined to go mad.
Potrei diventare un osservatore.
Yes and no. So far as I understand it, a Watcher is born a Watcher. But it takes an event, often something shocking or traumatic, to bring a Watcher's powers to the fore. So you may be a Watcher, or I may be, or Kai, and we might not even know.
C'è qualche osservatore famoso che devo conoscere?
Well, the Watcher of Cadnua is legendary. It was their castle Aethys destroyed when he began terror in the dead fire. Oh, by the Queen, I hope I get to meet them someday. In terms of local interest, you'll have heard of Runid, of course. And there was Ida. You may not know about her. She was a Watcher from the Living Lands. I believe she was an Orlan. She must have died, 150 years ago. Slain by a great serpent, gods treat kindly with her soul. Doubtless there are others, but most don't meet a good end.
Sei molto sugli osservatori per essere un semplice segretario.
I don't think so.
The envoy is right. You're basically a Watcher encyclopedia.
Why should a secretary be limited to knowledge of filing systems and how the ambassador takes his tea? I was a boy once. Watchers were a special interest of mine when I was young.
He sounds defensive to me. Does he sound defensive to you, Envoy?
Decisamente.
I am not a Watcher.
Exactly what a Watcher would say.
Both of you, please, your fun puts me at tremendous risk. This isn't a subject the Inquisitor takes lightly.
All right, all right. I know you're not a Watcher, Tycg. You'd be better at dice.
Apology accepted.
Vorrei chiederti qualcos'altro.
Of course.
Tu sei il segretario ambasciatore, che tipo di persona è?
Well, you'll notice I'm nearly always here. If that man sleeps, I don't know about it. He wouldn't say, but I believe he relied on the Claviger far more than he lets on. And without the Claviger's steady hand at the rudder, the ambassador's struggling just to bail water from the sinking ship that is Paradise.
Claviger Amon might have tolerated a little more chaos than the ambassador liked, but he kept this place humming. He's not someone you can easily replace, and not with one man alone.
It's a difficult job. The pressure sometimes gets the better of him. But if he loses his temper now and then, I can't blame him for it. Better him than me.
Come si comporta quando non sta lavorando?
He doesn't know what to do with himself. You know, in our first days here, he'd often walk to the end of the docks at sunrise. The work was done, the embassy was closed, and he'd still be wearing the same clothes he'd slept in at his desk. And he'd just stare out over the sea. He always seemed dissatisfied back then. I suppose, years later, he still does.
Non ti interessa il suo posto?
Be serious. Most of us here didn't get sent to the frontier because we were anybody's favorite. The longer I'm here, the more likely the people who matter are to forget me. And I'd actually like to get back to High Crown someday. Get married, have a few kids, take the civil exams and settle into a permanent clerkship.
I guess there are worse ways to spend a life.
Like rotting in this embassy.
Vorrei chiederti
I'm an open
qualcos'altro. Niente, abbiamo
Should you
finito.
ever need me, I will be here. Safe travels, envoy.
Mizzica, che bella chiacchierata. Che bella chiacchierata.